And we're off. Alright, well this is our setup this year. The shade structure was just delightful. It was perfect. The double layer really kept it cool. The top layer would block the sun and the second layer would just provide that extra little kick. So it was really great. The corner poles, we very quickly realized that we needed 4 tie downs per, not 2. We also realized that all 4 of them do need to be ratchet straps. They do need to be adjustable to really dial this structure in as tightly as we possibly can.
So, possible thought to do with the extra orange strapping that we won't be able to use next year then, since it's too short, is to sew it along the edges of the ground cloth to reinforce the edges and make really nice tie-down points in the corners to hold this a little flatter. It was a little flappy on the edges.
Yes. Yeah, we passed several camps, and those that had the ground fabric actually attached really well were the least worrisome. It just stayed there. You didn't have to worry about it.
The pole feet worked really well. The lights were phenomenal. We just left them on all the time on the dusk till dawn setting, which worked out perfectly. Having some extra lights to light up these straps worked nicely for the every once in a while that we forgot to turn the pole lights on, although towards the end that wasn't a problem at all. We just left them on, let them be dusk till dawn. We were worried about the battery to begin with, but it worked like a champ, no problems. So.
The coffee table here with the batteries and stuff underneath it worked out fantastic.
Well, having a pigtail with so that you could plug a light in worked really well. We didn't end up wrapping something around the box because it shined in your eyes, but the bucket light ended up being a very nice little light here. It would have been great if we could have hung it. So
Yes.
think about that for next year. So, shall we do a detailed look at the poles and how we have them attached? Up here, we have a single carabiner. Here on this one, we ended up having to tip this pole out a little further. This is I'm going to call this the front left pole as you're facing the street. So we did lean that out a bit more. It would be nicer if it was straight up and down. And that's the tall pole. And then let's do this one over here is a short pole. We ended up with lots of carabiners here. It would be better if next year we didn't need to have this many. So we'll dial in the distances a little better. But the pole is pretty much straight up and down here. Alright. This one that's closest to the yurt is the other high pole. You can see we had the tensioning ratchet straps on here. Once we got this all stretched out, we really didn't have to retension these at all. So since it's stretched out now, I'm sort of hoping that we won't need to put the tensioning ratchet straps for these connections, that we'll just be able to put carabiners, but maybe not. Again, this pole is pretty straight.
Yeah.
It's really just that front one that we needed to cant out. And then this other low one over here, we also have the ratchet straps. And this is the only corner where the 2 corners of the shade cloth didn't end up right above each other. So I'm not sure if that's just random or manufacturing defect. All the other 3 corners are right lined up on top of each other. So the 2 shade structures are the exact same size. So something to be aware of. There might be a corner where you need an extra carabiner on one in the future, or maybe not. This pole, if anything, is canted inwards a little bit rather than out, but very slightly. The tarp grabbers, they worked. They didn't let go of the tarp, but they did end up ripping it in some places. So not necessarily the ideal situation for this particular canvas. The 2x4s were to keep the leading edge down, since this was the windy edge, you can tell from the sand. Burying this cable here under this one thing of corner bar was a reasonable idea, and it probably would have worked if everything had stayed a little more still. Maybe a couple of short tent pegs or something to X into the ground on each end might have been good.
Yeah.
We had a neighbor give us some blocks, so that's awesome. We'll take those home. The 2 tables with trash can, bungee corded in between them worked fabulously. The lid would open, but not enough that it was really going to fly away. We were able to keep the camp stove here, even when we had the craziest, windiest day. Everything was blowing all over the place. The camp stove was just fine there. It was collapsed, but it was just there. Everything was cool. Having the truck pulled all the way back so that the space between the truck and the yurt was so small was very nice.
Would recommend taking some time to think about this one yurt strap. See if there's anything we could do to maybe move it out, or create just more of a just create an easier walkway. It was awkward to constantly be going around this one strap. Either have something go straight down to the ground, or perhaps have something extend out and then down to create like a little walk or a little doorway over here. Just something so you're not dodging that particular strap.
We did end up putting the shade structure up first so that then we could attach this triangular piece to the 2 poles here and pull it back to see exactly where the back of the truck needed to be. It ended up being very close to the yurt, and we had already set the yurt up at that point. So I think for next year, place all of the shade structure first and the truck, and then place the yurt. So I'll give you some measurements if you'd like. There's 26 inches, maybe a little over, here in this walkway, and that ended up being just enough. 30 maybe would have been better, although that would let more wind in, so 26 is pretty darn good. You can see that this strap coming off the front of the yurt, which is pretty perpendicular to that side, came just in front of this table. And then you can see over here how close the edge of the truck was. It's maybe 29 inches between this corner and that playa screw. So everything's pretty close here. This made a very nice protected area under here. The shade cloth was just high enough that we could actually pull the bikes into this area underneath, and that kept them very nicely out of the wind for those really, really windy days. We did not end up putting the solar panels on the roof of the truck. We ended up just putting them out here. And this, believe it or not, I kept the batteries topped up like champs all during the week. We didn't even come close to hitting the batteries hard. We could plug way more stuff into them, more power, more lights, more everything, and they'd be good. So have at it.
And strapping it down to the ground with just 2 bolts and these 2 pieces of 2x4 and the aluminum was beautiful, because when it's time to take this away, just pull them up, stack them, we're done.
using these Christmas lights that come on at dusk and off at dawn, and wrapping them here around the outer four straps for the yurt was good. It was good for safety. We could do a little better next year, kind of tying these down so they didn't end up on the ground, but yeah, whatever. Wasn't that big of a deal. Swamp coolers probably would have been great, but it was too cold this year for us to use them more than once, so good enough.
Straps all started resonating in the high wind. Got to figure out a way to eliminate that.
Oh, sew a chain link on. We're gonna totally sew chain links on each of these right in the middle. Just one good piece of chain right there, just enough weight to keep the resonation down. Pretty good. Oh, look, it's the cannabis.
That is snazzy.
These straps work really well, the belly band straps, but on the windy side, there was a lot of this going on. So maybe tape some of those foam noodles on or something. We zip stripped this one up here to keep it away. It was just seriously flapping on the yurt. So that was one noise issue with the yurt, and the other one was up top with the zippers. You can see how they're hanging. So next year when you make the cone, before you put it up there, tape the zippers, bring them in through the hole, and tape them on the inside. And then for the corner zippers, we ended up just tying them in a little knot. That actually worked way better than you would think it would. It worked just fine.
Yeah, it worked perfect.
None of this tore off this year. Nothing. And nothing loosened up, and we had winds twice as strong as last year, at least.
And not just strong, but the winds were very consistent over a long period of time. Let's see.
Yeah, so the vinyl glue, perfect. Very, very perfect. Also, all the zippers to zip the ground cloth up around the outside of the yurt, they worked fabulously. It kept all of the dust out. The only side where we had dust coming in through the bottom was the one side where we lost the zipper pull. So again, an extra baggie of these things. Having the truck for our garage/shower worked great. The shower could use a little work to make it a little more friendly, but it was very sufficient for 2 nice showers, which made our lives good. So if you can't improve upon this, at least bring this for next year. This was good enough, but better would be better.
Yes. The filter, it would be nice if there was a quick change mechanism instead of having to come and retape every time you want to change a filter and get gunk all over your pretty yurt. The door frame itself was perfect. It was so incredibly nice to have a door with a doorknob and actual frame, so you could open the door and kick it and slam the door, and you could treat it like a house door. I mean, it was just a nice thing to have full access to the yurt, not have a short door. But this frame needs a little attention, a little fine tuning. There's a large gap up here we gotta figure out you have to figure out how to solve. Future us. Swamp coolers, again, it would be nice if there was a more automated mechanism an easier way to get the water in and out. Having to move the swamp cooler every time you want to put water in it is a terrible idea. Taping it all over the yurt, again, terrible idea. We want to put something in there, maybe I don't know, a 3-inch joint or something, or 4 inch, I'm sorry.
You taped that just to seal it, right? Not
Yes.
to hold it in there.
Right.
Okay, so we need some sort of a foam interior so that when you shove this pipe through, it makes a very tight seal with the pipe. Like a big rubber gasket, maybe.
Yeah. Having all the switches for all the swamp coolers and lights. Beautiful.
Oh, fabulous.